But what we did see is a photograph of King Charles with his fourth Prime Minister, and I worked out it's 3 years, 10 months.
A bit less cute than the grandchildren.
A bit less than the grandchildren, just Andy Burnham. But maybe more important, how important is this for the King? How important is it for him to have a relationship, to see the Prime Minister? I mean, some of you maybe don't understand that the King actually gets a weekly, private, confidential audience with his Prime Minister after appointing his potentially fourth Prime Minister. But why is it important for our country and the royal family that the King can have a relationship with the Prime Minister?
Well, I think it's because he projects stability. And thank God, to quote that lovely lady from Bristol, not another one.
Yeah.
This is the fourth in however long.
Brenda.
And I think that what we really need is continuity at this point, and we're not getting it from the government. And Charles is someone who does provide that, just as his mother did beforehand. And whatever you think of the monarchy, they are the one constant in our society at the moment, while everything's changing. And he's now a real elder statesman, and he has the experience of multiple prime ministers already. He's able to offer good advice, but he's seen things come and go. He's seen ministers come and go. He has strong views, as we know, on things. But he's also got a lot of wisdom, and I hope that that's something the new Prime Minister can tap into, because he's really kind of a sounding board and it's almost a moment of therapy, I think some former Prime Ministers have described it.
I think the weekly audience between the King and the Prime Minister of the day is one of the great aspects of the monarchy. And Mrs Thatcher, notwithstanding her public rivalry with the Queen, because I think at one point Mrs Thatcher thought she was head of state and put in her place by Elizabeth, but notwithstanding that, as the two alpha female figures, she described the weekly audiences with the Queen as a great comfort, which from a formidable character like the Iron Lady is quite something. And Blair has also spoken of how wise and how worldly the Queen was back in the day. We've seen the same from Charles. Charles is an incredibly clever and knowledgeable man, a keen historian, and capacious life experience in this unique role as Prince of Wales and now King. So I think it's just the most wonderful thing. Anyone that's got any doubts about the monarchy, when you look at that tradition, going back to Queen Elizabeth and her first Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, no less, this young woman being informed about the government's plans for the week by that iconic figure. So Andy Burnham will benefit greatly from the King's Council, and of course it's confidential. Mm-hmm. And the King is probably more politically proactive than Elizabeth was, and therefore may offer more proactive advice. But it does remind you of the importance of the monarchy, the stability it provides. I'm also reminded of when Liz Truss became Prime Minister. Do you remember King Charles's reaction?
Well, I certainly remember when she arrived back after, the transition, the change of reign, and I think he said, "Oh, you're back again."
Yes,
he?
And I also think he added the words, "Oh dear."
Yeah, he did.
Which was damning.
What do you think with Charles? Obviously, he's got lots of challenges. He's got his family. He has to deal with Andrew. He has to deal with Harry. He has to deal with Meghan. But he also has to deal with a revolving door of Prime Ministers.
Do you think it's a reverse therapy? Do you think he's going to say, "Mr. Burnham, hear me out. I've got a lot going on at home at the moment"? Maybe it'll work like that.
Yeah, why not? But what do you think is the most challenging to him? Is it working with the revolving door of politicians, or is the problems with his family?
I think the personal stuff must probably be the most wounding, I would imagine. But it is challenging because every time there's a new government, he has to get to know different ministers, understand different approaches to policy. It's a complete changeover. And obviously he doesn't get that involved in any of it, but he is a consummate professional, and he will want to be fully briefed on as much as he can. So it's a lot to take in every time.
What's been in more chaos is a word I've used twice today, but what's been in more chaos? Has it been British politics or the royal family for the last 5 or 6 years?
Wow, that's a brilliant question.
It's a good top trumps, Matt, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the issue you've had with the Sussexes and the royal family is that a lot of this chaos, as I was saying earlier, I think it's by design. I actually think it's Harry and Meghan's currency. It's interesting listening to Thomas Markle Jr., who's Meghan's half-brother. Now, don't get me wrong, his YouTube show is a bit of a white-knuckle ride. It's not for everyone. But one of the things he said in a recent video was that Meghan actually likes the negative headlines and the conflict because it's just noise, and that's ultimately what she craves. So I think that's the one side of it. The politics side of it, yeah, that's difficult, isn't it? I mean, that is our democracy. And I think it's really a good look for the monarchy that whilst the prime ministers come and go, the king remains.
Will the instability worry Charles, or as you point out that he
worry him.
revels because of the fact that he can be that pillar of stability?
No, I think it will worry him enormously. I think that he loves this country. He feels responsible for it as head of state, and he will be world weary about this conveyor belt of prime ministers. And he is an incredibly bright man. He probably would be a decent prime minister himself. He's got an extraordinary work ethic. He's a very ethical and principled guy. And actually, unlike a lot of these politicians, he hasn't been on a journey. I mean, Andy Burnham, there's a joke about Andy Burnham, a Blairite, a Brownite and a Corbynite go into the pub, and the barman says, "What do you want to drink, Andy?" Because the guy, he's been on more journeys than Phileas Fogg. The king, very consistent, passionate about the environment for decades.
Well, I think that's one thing that probably does concern him, is that things that we want to get changed or achieved are probably being held up by the constant changes. So we know he's very passionate about environment, housing, things like that, something William's also very interested in. And the problem is every time there's a reshuffle, people are starting again from scratch.
We do have a lot of viewers from around the world. So we are focusing on British politics, but I think we need to, just because we have had, another change in Prime Minister. But Emily, when I was watching Andy Burnham when he was outside 10 Downing Street giving his first speech, the first policy initiative he said that he was going to end homelessness.
Yeah.
Now suddenly that chimes bells in a royal editor's mind, because that's Prince William's thing.
Do you think William rang him up and had a word?
What do you think? Do you think that they have collaborated, but they have no projects running together?
No.
They have met at events. I think it was Centrepoint. I can't remember. I remember we may have seen him at an event. But do you think they would end? We're talking about the King and Burnham working together. Do you think William and the Prime Minister?
I mean, in as much as William can ever get closely involved in politics, which is not much, but it will be music to his ears to know that this is now at the top of the government's agenda. And I do think he's been really influential in that. You know, he has really drawn attention to a very unsexy topic, but something that is not being resolved by generations now. And it's something that he has made part of his life's work. So I'm sure there'll be quite a few conversations coming up.
Well, I think it's a happy coincidence because it demonstrates how in step with public opinion and how in step with the big issues facing the country the royal family are. To be so focused on the environment, well, Charles called that early and he got that right. I mean, he used to be mocked for his organic farming and talking to the plants. Well, they're not laughing now, are they? He's won that argument. And then similarly, the issue of house building. I mean, the big issues facing the country, we don't have enough houses. That's a big focus of William's. And then, of course, the issue of the homeless as well, which is a tragedy that you see playing out on our streets every day. So, not only has it become politically relevant, it shows how on the ball the royal family are with the issues facing the country.
This is a really good point. I never thought of it that way. I thought maybe they were invading each other's territory, but really, William could say, well, I'm not an expert in it, but he's well read and he does as much as he can. He can, help Andy Burnham with his
I really feel, if they don't get too involved in politics, the royals can be such a valuable sounding board because, as someone put it to me, they almost have the best focus groups available to anyone because they're constantly travelling the country. They're meeting people from all walks of life. They're getting a great overview of what's happening on the ground. I feel they should be having more conversations.
Yeah, definitely. And, William is very clear that he wants to be, when he becomes king, a consequential king. He wants to do things. So he's going to be slightly prime ministerial himself in the best possible way. Obviously, we know where the line is. But he wants to get things done. So he's already started as Prince of Wales with homelessness, the Earthshot Prize, of course, as well. And we'll see more of that. And because, what William doesn't want to do, he's going to reform the monarchy, modernise it. He doesn't want to open hospital wings. He's not going to be this ceremonial figure. Of course, part of that will be required. But you notice his calendar, his schedule. He's already scaled back a lot of those public events. And I think that sets the tone for his reign.
It's worth pointing out that we haven't seen much from William or Catherine for around a week now because they have basically finished off maybe for the summer. But we did see the King literally about an hour after the kissing hands ceremony with Burnham. He was off working in
He
Cambridge.
popped up to Cambridge to
He
visit.
popped up to Cambridge to open up an eco-mosque or visit an eco-mosque and visit a laboratory.
He just sort of squeezed in the prime ministerial appointment into his existing engagements. It's like, just shuffle things around a little bit.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That's a very good point. He was literally just, I'll do the quick appointment there with the important bit there with the Prime Minister, then I'm straight up to Cambridge to carry on with the work.
But he's so experienced now. This is, his third time of going through this procedure, so he knows exactly how to play it.
Yeah. Let's talk about ruby wedding anniversaries. Now, it isn't officially a ruby wedding anniversary because they divorced many years ago, but this week would have been, if they stuck together, the 40th anniversary for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Sarah Ferguson. Now, they're not in a good place at the moment, let's be honest. Andrew is up in... He's up at Marsh Farm, up at Sandringham. We don't really know where Sarah Ferguson is. But do you think the pair of them would maybe quietly remember, remark upon, or get in contact over the fact that they were married 40 years ago? Don't forget, they lived together until just earlier this year. They were still living together.
It's funny, isn't it? Because Fergie always described them as the happiest divorced couple in the world. I imagine she doesn't feel quite the same now, given everything that has gone down between then and now. But obviously there was a lot of affection and friendship still up until fairly recently, and they do have the daughters in common. They're about to become grandparents again. I can see a world in which they are in contact.
Do you think have they abandoned each other, do you think? Or are they, as Emily says, they're still in contact and maybe
I think, Emily, you're absolutely right about that. I'm old enough to remember when they got married, and I remember the courtship, and it was so playful, and they were genuinely in love. There was a real chemistry and a big attraction between the two of them as well. So it was just, it started so well. It augured so well for a fresh, modern marriage in the royal family. And it's soured quite quickly. I think partly because Andrew was overseas so much with the Navy, and I think that was really hard for Sarah Ferguson, who, to be fair, is quite a high-maintenance individual, I would say, very damaged person from such a chaotic childhood and a disordered domestic setting with her dad running off and having affairs and all the rest of it. So they're both probably quite damaged people. But yeah, I mean, I think there was a sustained friendship over the years. And what's happened is that it was also transactional. Sarah Ferguson needed somewhere to live, so the Royal Lodge was perfect. I'm told they were in very different wings.
They were. They lived quite separately.
Bumping into each other in the kitchen in the dead of night.
I don't think either of them were doing much cooking, but...
No. But the only thing that I'm hearing is that Sarah Ferguson feels aggrieved that she's somehow been cast as the person responsible for the whole Epstein saga. And I think that sticks in the craw. What's interesting, of course, she's got the ultimate nuclear weapon, hasn't she? Sarah Ferguson, My Story.
Well, she has written one. She's written a few over the years.
She's written very anodyne ones.
Yeah, she could go much further, but I don't know what... I mean, the public appetite would probably be quite
She knows where the bodies are buried, though, doesn't she?
She does, but it depends. But she doesn't want to... She will not want to endanger her daughter's relationship with the monarchy and with the king and with their cousin William in particular. I think at the end of the day, she is a mother, and she probably does feel... I'm sure she has great regrets about the effect it's had on Beatrice and Eugenie. And so I would hope that would prevent her from taking that kind of drastic of a step.
If you think about this marriage, and I'm old enough as well, I remember at school, they sat very young, they sat us in assembly and we watched it. Actually watched it in assembly at school to
Who knew you'd be doing this now?
I know, who knew? But looking back, I mean, was it just doomed from the very beginning, or could they have still been happily married? But also, is it surely the most significant marriage in the royal family for the last 40 or 50 years because of what has happened since? All the scandals that have wrapped around Sarah, even when they were splitting up, have wrapped around her since, and bringing down Andrew with all the Epstein scandals.
I don't know. I mean, you could definitely argue that Charles and Diana had huge repercussions as well. But that marriage, I think, I can't see how it would have worked long term. And we're looking back with hindsight, aren't we? They did appear to be very happy together, but he was away for long periods of time. Obviously, very much part of an institution which it's hard for anyone to enter into in terms of coming in as a woman, particularly. And if you look at the relationships that have succeeded, it's been people who've come from the outside from very stable family backgrounds. And as you point out...
Like Catherine.
Hers, yes, and Sarah's wasn't. And she'd be the first to admit that. And then you also have to couple it with the real challenges in that period of the way that, the media was covering things. There was probably a lot of exposure of what was going on that might not have happened in previous generations.
And we're stopped from doing now as well.
Well, they haven't helped themselves.
I mean, I think they're also at the heart of it, both very flawed personalities. I might indulge in some Sun newspaper style tabloidies, a pair of wrong uns. And I think what's happened is that perhaps if Andrew had had a more upstanding spouse, or perhaps if it was Sarah Ferguson that had found a sensible husband, it could have played out differently. But you put those two together, Andrew, with his wild hubris, his arrogance, his entitlement, which is not matched by any intelligence or talent. And then you got Sarah, this flawed individual, a spendthrift, a very indulgent personality. It's a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly how it played out. You know, the money, the sex, the scandal, the politics, they enabled each other and created a monster.